fun and informative podcast all about training working dogs? Look no further than the LWDG POD DOG. This weekly show is hosted by me, Jo Parrott, founder of the Ladies Working Dog Group, and I chat to experienced trainers and experts in the field who will give you helpful tips and advice. Whether you're just getting started or you've been working with dogs for years, this podcast will have something for you. So pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and tune in to LWDG POD DOG. Let us help you build a better bond with your best friend. Hello and welcome to another episode of LWDG POD DOG. This evening I am joined by the amazing Becky Brunton, who is going to be talking to us about never giving up on your dreams. Welcome, Becky.
Hi.
So, Becky, Never Giving Up on Your Dreams is a very broad title for our podcast this evening. Tell us a little bit more about your background before we go into the podcast itself.
So I've had dogs now for 7-8 years. I've recently started gundog training since I got Luna, actually. So she's now 3 years old. And we started off just doing it for fun and obedience more than anything, and then very quickly worked out that she absolutely loves it, and so did I. And the next thing you know, I'm in tweed and do barries, and I've got a 4x4, and now absolutely love it, live for it. So that's me.
So your dogs before Luna, were they gun dogs or working dogs?
No, they were purely pets and agility dogs. So yeah, she's my first gun dog. She was actually bought as an agility dog, but she needed something much more mentally stimulating than just doing agility once a week. So that's why we went down the gun dog route. And yeah, now she absolutely loves it.
So when you first decided to go down the gun dog route, because obviously that was a different route to where you had intended, how did you find your way into the world?
I actually bumped into someone in the park local to me doing, gun dog stuff, was throwing dummies, was blowing whistles, all that kind of stuff. And I inquired with him about it, and we started doing a little bit of training together. And he suggested going to see this professional trainer that he was seeing. So I started going to see him. I knew absolutely nothing about it. One of his first questions to me over the phone was, do you want to beat, trial or pick up? And I didn't even know the difference. So I said to him, my life is in your hands, basically. Tell me what I need to know. I've got a spaniel and that's about it, really. And yeah, so then I started going to see him, and Luna progressed, basically.
So when, even that question alone, like I sort of giggled then, because I remembered what I was like right at the beginning. And, it is a world of, shall we say, not sayings, but words that are very much specific to the industry, like dogging in and all these types of things. And if you're not from the sport or have had nothing to do with it, it is very hard at the beginning to understand the lingo, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I speak to my non-dog friends and they say, what did you do at the weekend? And I said, I went beating. And they're like, you went whatting? And then you have to explain, you walk through undercover and you beat bushes and all this kind of stuff and find the birds. And yeah, and stuff like dogging in, people find the term dogging in that don't know what dogging in is absolutely hilarious. So I know when I went to watch some friends dogging in a little while ago, I said to my bosses that I was off dogging in, and so now it's called dogging because they have absolutely no idea what dogging in was, and they thought it was absolutely hilarious. So it's now a bit of a standing joke at work.
Right at the beginning, when I was trying to explain to people, especially like my gran and stuff, she'd say, what have you done on the weekend? And I would try to explain, and then I just realised it's easier to say, just went for a really long walk up the mountains with my dog.
Yeah. I've taken the dogs out. That's generally how I get around it now.
Okay, so when we're talking about don't give up on your dreams, really, really positive title to this podcast, but the positivity we're going to get to, it didn't start like that, did it?
No, not at all. Well, it did, and then it went downhill very quickly and drastically. And it's been a very long, hard, painful slog, basically, to get back to where I was.
So for the listeners to understand, you're going along to dog training with Luna. She's young, you're in a new sport, trying to work your way around. Everything's going swimmingly right at the beginning. So what changed?
So I obviously went to see my trainer. I knew absolutely nothing. So when, he said jump, I said how high, basically. And he said, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, I thought, oh my God, my dog's amazing. It's doing all of these things, and I started off in the bronze gundog group. And I very quickly, because I was doing groups alongside one-to-ones, and I very quickly shot up into the gold and the platinum. And in the one-to-ones, we were shooting over her, all sorts. And she was absolutely amazing, and I was going home, on top of the world, basically, thinking I've got, the best dog on the planet. But one day it was like someone had flicked a switch. And all of a sudden, she couldn't even sit to a dummy being thrown. And for me to see that, last week she was being shot over and retrieving rabbits, to literally not being able to throw a dummy without her running in was like, really confusing. And I thought down all the pain routes and veterinary routes and behavioural routes and all that kind of thing. And I had a really long discussion with my trainer about it. And he said, this happens quite a lot actually to young high drive dogs that, we've probably pushed her a bit too fast, basically, and we've completely blown her brains. So I said, right, well, what do we do now? Because obviously, having never done anything like this before, I don't know how to fix it, basically. So again, my life is still in his hands in terms of my dog training with her. And he said, well, basically, if she moves, you can either go and pick her up and give her an absolute boot and put her back where she broke so that she learns not to break again. And if she's repetitive in the behaviour, then we put an electric shock collar on her. Now, for someone that knows nothing about, if I wasn't a strong enough person to say, you're not shocking my dog with an electric collar, it kind of worries me that actually people would just nod their heads and say, oh yeah, okay, I'll put an electric collar on, or I'll go and pick my dog up and kick it in the stomach. And so I came home feeling a little bit deflated, and I thought, there's got to be another way. We've done it once before, surely we can do it again. So I went trainer hunting, basically, and subsequently found two other trainers that both said, yeah, we'll do it. And I explained the full story, and we know she can do it. I've got videos and all sorts of her doing it. They said, yeah, we'll do it. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, they were like, no, she's too high drive, definitely need an electric collar.
So if I start with this, so you've gone from this lovely little bitch who is flying, who's busting a gut to do everything she can for you, who is making you super, super proud, to something switching in her mind, and their response to it isn't a positive one that is going to align to what you've been doing with her before. We've gone full extreme now, haven't we? One minute we're like, she's going up to platinum, she's amazing, she's wonderful, and now they're saying something's changed, let's be quite rough with her.
Yeah.
For you, that must have been like, wait a minute, this dog is my, my world. I leave here normally feeling like on top of the world. I know what it's like when you've had an amazing session, you're like, oh my God, you can't stop beaming, the world is right. And you've gone from that to the other end of the thing where they're suggesting you hurt her.
Yeah. And actually the lesson before she went wrong, I was actually running my dog alongside my trainer's dog in a sort of trialing format, as it were. And his dog went wrong, and he went after it, and he picked it up by the ears, and he booted it in the stomach, and he threw it back on the floor. And he actually said to me when we were discussing, ways to fix Luna, basically, do exactly what I did to his dog, the week before. And I thought, I'm watching that made my heart wrench. I thought that poor dog. And as soon as he started saying all this, an electric collar, and I just thought, we've got her here before. Surely there's got to be a way to get her back here again, basically.
So this is going from, they're not offering any type of positive correction or any type of understanding or anything. It's just literally our answer to this is to be brutal with her.
Yep, that was my options, basically.
So for a new person, obviously, it is very, very lucky that you're the strength, but you can understand why a lot of people go, well, you're the gun dog trainer and this is a gun dog. So if that's what you're saying I should do, then maybe I should do it. And they would understandably feel absolutely remorseful whilst it's going on. You've stuck up for yourself, gone to 2 other trainers who are pretty much saying, the words high drive is enough to maybe worry some people, but I think Spaniels as a whole set are pretty much high drive. Where did you go from there? Because now you've been to 3 people who are offering options of like hurting her. Where you must have been feeling so deflated. So where did you go?
Yeah, so unfortunately the bad stuff doesn't stop there. I was talking to a friend of mine and he recommended this judge that apparently has got, the bee's knees ground for spaniels in England. And he's the best person to go and see. He's a trialing judge. He's trialed all this kind of thing. So I phoned this guy up and I explained the problems and he said, oh, yeah, I can fix it. Come down. So 3 hours I drove to go and see him, all hopeful. We sat down for an hour and we went through like everything you can possibly imagine, what my cues are, where I train, what time I train, how often I train, literally everything. And he wrote it all down and all that kind of stuff. And then he said, right, get the dog out. So I went and got the dog out and he asked me to hunt up in this little cover bit. And I did. And she was absolutely perfect. And he turned around and he genuinely said to me, he said, you could wipe the floor with trials with that dog. And I said, yeah, I could. But I can't get a bum to sit on the floor, basically, at the moment, and that's my problem. And so he said, right, okay, sit her up there, and he got the dummy launcher out. And I said, I can guarantee you she's going to break for this, this retrieve. And he said, that's all right, I'll stop her. So he fired the dummy launcher, and lo and behold, Luna went flying after it, and he ran after her, growled, and, shouted at her, and it didn't stop her, and it never has stopped her. And I said, that's my problem. And so we did a few more exercises. And afterwards, he came up to me and he said, right, he said, you've got 3 options. He said, your first option is to sell her to someone that knows what they're doing. He said, because you can't handle that dog. Your second option is to put her in for residential training for at least 6 weeks to fix her. And then, you can have her back. And your third option is to work hard. He said, and I when I said to him, I've tried to work hard, he said, you don't know what hard work is yet. And that was my options, basically. So I was told to deliberate over them and let him know what I wanted to do, basically. So I turned away. I drove 3 hours home and I cried the entire way home, basically.
I'm aware of this story, which is why I asked you to do this podcast. But even as I'm hearing it again, it must have been so painful, because it's hard enough for somebody when you've got a dog that's frustrating, that's never done it right. It can be soul destroying because you still can't get it quite right. But there's you with a dog that can do this, has done this perfectly. Something's gone wrong, and then you've got trainers saying, well, we can hurt her, and now a new trainer saying, no, now possibly. Well, all 3 options basically saying the issue is with you. And again, you've already done this with the dog. You and the dog can work as a team to do this. You must have been like, is there ever going to be an answer to this?
Yeah, I mean, my drive home, basically, I just thought, what have I done? I basically blamed myself, because I thought there must have been something, because I know the dog can do it, and every trainer you go and see in the country, 9 times out of 10 says it's the handler and it's not the dog. And I was just blaming myself basically, and it made me feel awful because I know she can do it, and I thought I'm letting her down. Maybe I, never in a million years would I sell her, but the thought crossed my mind of, am I giving the dog her what she needs and her true potential basically? And it was actually a post I put on LWDG squad group literally the following day, because I was just still so upset, and everyone was saying to me that at the end of that day, end of the day, you can see that dog idolizes you. I think I put a photo up of me and her, and everyone could 100% guarantee that she would rather live a pet life with me than she would live a gun dog life with with a trainer that's going to beat her or put an electric collar on her. And so actually that really cheered me up, and I thought, you know what? And it kind of gave me the kick up the bum and the motivation to say, no, we're going to find a way. There has got to be a way of doing this, and we're going to find it together, basically.
So you absolutely, by this point, the super, not super confident, but the super happy person leaving the grounds before is now just in yourself. You've basically lost your confidence, your words. You basically blaming yourself. You don't know how to put the dog right. Every single person offering you a solution is basically saying you've got to be cruel to her. And so far, as far as I can understand, nobody's actually given you anything positive you can do about this problem.
No, nothing at all.
So you're genuinely considering, like you said, from what the squad said, the squad are absolutely great, really, really good at supporting everybody in the team. That's what we do. But like they're saying to you, like, even if she's a pet, it's still it's not an answer. So where did you go from there? Is it like, you're like, right now, Luna's going to be my pet for life, or how did you move forward?
Yeah, so I actually went out for a beer with some shooting friends of mine, and I was discussing, various issues, and they said, well, at the end of the day, she picks up game perfectly, and she hunts like a demon. So why don't you just come to our local, family-run syndicate shoot, let her pick up, and just enjoy her. No pressure. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, but she's on a lead, so she doesn't need to worry about being steady, and she gets to do what she wants, and what you want her to do at the end of the drive, and pick up birds to her heart's content. And to begin with, I thought they'd gone completely and utterly mad. But actually, the more I kind of played it over my head, I thought, you know what? If I just take the pressure off completely, then maybe we can, find a way to build everything back up. So I actually went and did a season picking up with her on a really small, it was sort of like 50 bird days. And she was out of this world. You couldn't ask for a better picking up, sweeping dog. She was absolutely fantastic. And I did a lot of other shoots as well, just beating, by myself. And obviously got to meet a lot of people in the shooting community. And I spoke to a lot of people about trainers and my issues and, this, that, and the other. And the same name kept on cropping up every time. Various people from all over the sort of South Coast. And I thought, right, I'm going to speak to this man. He's my last hope, basically, at getting her steady. So I phoned him up and explained my issue. And he said, come along and we'll see what she's like. And I've never looked back, in all honesty.
So tell us a little bit more about this, because obviously you must have been quite reserved, thinking, oh God, not another trainer. What is he going to say? Because you've had a season now and you've still not solved the problem, but you and Luna are having fun and probably a little bit of confidence back. Was you really worried contacting him?
I was hesitant, yes, but I kind of had the confidence that his name had cropped up so many times that I thought, actually, he must be good. Either he's going to be good and he's going to fix the problem, or he's going to be good and, just tell me that there's an electric collar issue again. And, but but he's still a good trainer sort of thing. And I thought, right, okay. So he said, come along. And so I took all 4 of mine along, and we had like a little assessment with all 4 of them. And the pups were like real pups then, so they didn't sort of need much. But we got Luna around. He said, right, is this the problem dog? And I said, yeah. So he said, right, hunt her up through here. And I thought, I've heard this before. Here we go. So hunted her up, and he said, right, blow the stop whistle a few times. And she stops perfectly on the stop whistle as long as nothing's being thrown. And he said, right, blow the stop whistle, and I'm going to throw this tennis ball out. And that's when I kind of felt the blood pressure rise, because I thought, I know exactly what she's going to do. And lo and behold, she didn't fail me. She broke after the tennis ball, but she brought it straight back. And he said to me, right, there's your problem. And I was like, oh, God, please don't say you're going to electric collar or beat her or something. And he said, no, he said, the problem is she's trying so much to please you that she's breaking, because she thinks the quicker she gets the retrieve, the happier you will be. He said, if she had broken and gone for that retrieve and then gone off into the woods and chewed it or something like that, then it would be a different story. He said, but that dog has flown out for a retrieve and thrown itself back at you to take it so that she can go and get another one. I was like, oh, okay. No one said that before. Everyone's just said she's a naughty dog for breaking. No one's kind of broken it down into the bigger picture before. So I then started to relax and, okay, well, she does this and she does this and she does this. So he said, basically, what we've got to do is actually teach her that you would be happier for her to sit her bum on the floor until you release her for a retrieve. And I thought, oh, finally, there's common sense coming out of someone that doesn't involve beating my dog up or electrocuting it. So we did some exercises, and he wrote me up like a little training plan and said to him, if any time or day, that I want to text him and say, help, because I'm stuck, then, do this. He gave me some exercises to do with 2 people. He also gave me some exercises that I can do by myself, because I live alone and I don't really have anyone sort of, within 5 minutes that I can train with very often. And it was really good. And I've seen him fortnightly ever since.
You must have been like, oh my Lord, I understand the problem. And once you understand the problem, because up until this point, nobody's even explained to you why she's even doing it. But now you've got something that you understand, plus a plan to put it right. What was the plan? What did you have to do? How did you slow her back down?
Yeah, so he said, basically, what I was doing when I first turned up to him was putting too much pressure on her. So growling at her when she broke, shouting at her when she broke, being too sort of forceful in my voice when I said sit, sort of thing. He said, what you actually need to do is completely take all the pressure off of her, because she started doing things like anxiously eating grass if I held her in a sit too long. And he said she's doing that because she doesn't think she's pleasing you, because she's not finding something for you. So she's anxiously eating grass so that you release her to go and find something for you. So he said, basically, you need to completely take all the pressure off and go really soft on her and just keep on reassuring her. So we took it back almost to puppy steadiness, in terms of, just putting a tennis ball on the floor and rewarding her for sitting still while I then pick the tennis ball up, putting the tennis ball back on the floor, rewarding her, and then letting her have it, and then, mixing it up. And we completely broke it back down as if she was a 5-month-old puppy again. But rewarding her all the time for sitting down and reassuring her that sitting down was actually okay. And we've built it back up from there.
I can see her in the camera with you. She absolutely adores you, doesn't she? She's just like, you are the best mum in the world. Let me kiss you. Let me love you. She is just so besotted by you.
She is literally my left-hand side. She doesn't ever leave me, ever.
So you went back to what the trainers suggested. You start doing it. How quickly did you see her start to relax? Because to be fair to you, if I go back a little bit on that question, the way you've been growling at her and being not rough with her, but being quite boisterous in your behaviour, that's because so far you've only had trainers that have taught you that.
Yeah, so every trainer since has been, you know, she's a hard dog. She needs pressure putting on her. She needs shouting at. She needs growling at. She needs a kennel mentality where she gets shut in a cage until she's allowed to come out and train, because then she'll want to spend that 15 minutes trying to please you and all this kind of stuff. So everything up to seeing my new trainer was pressure, you know, use your body language to get over the top of her all the time and sort of almost make her submit underneath you. And and my new trainer was like, don't do any of that, basically. Completely take all of the pressure off, reassure her, love her, you know, tell her you love her, tell her she's a good girl, reward her with food, you know, do whatever you need to do to make her understand that sitting on the floor is actually what you want. Yes, you want her to go and get the retrieve, but you want her to sit on the floor until you say, go and get the retrieve, basically.
So what was it like when you got to the point where she actually did sit when you threw something?
Well, actually, by the end of that first lesson, she was sitting quite nicely to my trainer throwing a retrieve with her kind of sat out in stop in front of me. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, there is my dog. That's what she can do.
So how old was she by this point?
So she's just turned 3 and I started seeing him about 5 months ago.
So you had a solid year where you were unable to fix this problem. That's all you've heard is it's the dog. You need to be all over, you need to be all over her. You need to bully her. You need to this, and this. And then in one lesson, the dog is starting to get what you want. Yeah.
I drove home from that lesson and I cried for a totally different reason that I'd cried when I left the judge. I have never been so happy in all my life. And I thought, you know what? Now we can do this.
Had you given up? Like, look how many times you could have given up. You could have gone 2 routes. You could have started bullying the dog. And from what I can see of her and what you've told me, and from my very limited knowledge, I think she would have probably got worse, not better. Or you could have gone down this sort of like rehome her, all these types of things. You could have gone all the way down all those different routes. What kept you pushing through her?
The fact that she is my pride and joy. And when I came home from the Spaniel judge, I thought to myself, do you know what? Selling her is not an option. She's my absolute pride and joy. You know, I worship the ground that this dog walks on. And if we just spend our life hunting tennis balls in long grass and we go out on tiny shoots in the season on a lead, then that's what we'll do. Because if that's what keeps her happy and keeps her with me, then that's what we'll do.
So we're now 5 months with this new trainer. Where are we now with you called her, the trainer said she was a problem dog. She's nowhere near a problem dog. You've now had the support you needed to correct the challenge she was facing. Where are we now 5 months on?
So we are now actually aiming for working tests and trials. She is sitting to flush, she's sitting to whistle solidly, and she's sitting to shot again, all by herself. We have now got to start adding in another dog, because obviously adding in the extra dog adds in competition. But we want to make sure 100% that, she is 99.9% solid in her steadiness before we add the extra dog in. But we're actually hoping, and I will be absolutely a nervous wreck, but we are actually hoping to trial potentially at the end of this coming trialing season.
There's a round of applause. I'm so thrilled. I'm absolutely, when I read your you put a post up, which is what alerted me to your whole story a couple of days ago, explaining like the never give up sort of mentality that this experience has given you, and doing what the squad does so well, which is like imparting wisdom to help others who might be coming behind you with either a similar issue or a different issue, but feeling so deflated with it. When I read it, I just thought, isn't it lovely that you've got through and what you've learned from coming through? It's horrific what you've had to go through, but you've come through, and now you can like do this podcast, help other people to gain a little bit of confidence. For any of the ladies or gentlemen who listen to the podcast, because we have lots and lots of people who listen, what would you say to them if they are in a position with their dog and they're like, I just don't know how to go forward?
Just don't give up. I mean, as you've said, there have been so many opportunities that I could have given up. And I've had people time and time again say to me, you know, you could just sell her, you could just get another dog, you could just... And I don't believe in selling a dog just because it's not working. You know, I want to know why it's not working. I want to fix the issue. And I think for anyone that's really struggling with a certain issue, the most crucial thing, if anything, you take from this is to find the right trainer. And once you've found the right trainer, work hard. I mean, this hasn't come easy. I train every day and I love it, and I can see that where it's going and from where it's come. But find the right trainer, stick your fingers up to those that say you can't do it, and get your head down and crack on, basically.
Well, thank you very, very much for being so honest and vulnerable with us and telling us the story. I'm sure there's loads of people who listen to this and have been able to take quite a lot away from it. I think it brings back to this point as well, the idea of this traditional training of smacking them round, hitting them, beating them. That's not needed, is it? It's not needed to get the end result.
No, not at all. I knew we could do it because we'd done it once before. So I knew we could do it again. And you absolutely don't need to use harsh punishments for a dog. It's just not necessary. Find something that makes the dog work and go with it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for being with us this evening and going through all that. If anybody wants to find Becky, where can they find you? You're in the society squad, so you're in there if you want to chat to you. Where else could they find you?
Yeah, I'm on the Society Squad. I'm on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram as the Crazy Spaniel Lady.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time this evening. And I loved watching you. And I love Luna. She is absolutely gorgeous dog. And watching her, and I'm just like, oh my God, no wonder. And watching her, I know the listeners can't see her now, but she is so adoring, isn't she? Right now, the dog I've seen isn't in any way hard. She is just absolutely a sweetheart.
She is.
So thank you all very much for listening, and join us next week for another episode of LWDG POD DOG. Thank you for listening to LWDG POD DOG with me, Jo Parrott. Now, we all know training a dog takes time, energy and patience, but our lives can be really, really busy. Don't worry, the LWDG has got you covered. Join us for our free planning workshop where we'll show you how to use short 10-minute training sessions each day to fast forward your dog's education. Our experts have years of experience in training dogs and will help you get started on the right foot. Register now and start making progress with your furry friend today. Go to our Facebook page, the Ladies Working Dog Group, and click on the pinned post, or visit www.thelwdg.com.